She was humiliated, scorned, and betrayed by her then husband. Years later, he couldn't believe who she had become. Pamela always dreamed of a perfect life alongside her husband, Paul, a faithful wife, dedicated homemaker, loving mother. None of this was enough. Reality was cruel and filled with disdain and betrayal. Determined to turn all her pain into strength, she rose like a phoenix. Years after freeing herself from an abusive marriage, Pamela is no longer the submissive woman she once was. She had grown much stronger and more confident. Discover Pamela's emotional journey of overcoming obstacles, courage, and rebirth as she faces her past and builds a bright future, teaching her son Peter and herself that respect and admiration are the foundations of any true relationship. Pamela woke up with the first rays of sunlight filtering through the kitchen curtains. The smell of fresh coffee filled the air, mingling with the sweet aroma of toast. It was a sunny and peaceful morning, perfect for starting the day. She looked at the clock on the wall and realized she still had time before Peter woke up. With a nostalgic smile, she remembered how she always dreamed of having a perfect family. Marrying Paul seemed like the beginning of a fairy tale, but reality proved to be quite different. As she stirred the coffee, her mind wandered to the moments when she felt loved and desired. The plans to build a life together, to travel, to create a home filled with love. But those dreams were quickly replaced by a bitter reality, where betrayal and disdain became part of her daily life. Paul, with his charming ways, had turned into a cold and distant person who did not hesitate to belittle her appearance and origins. "I don't know how you dare go out like this, Pamela," he had once said, with disdain that still echoed in her mind. "You don't seem to have put any effort in. It looks like you don't care." Those words cut like a sharp knife, and Pamela felt their weight in her chest. She remembered how, after that argument, she locked herself in the bathroom and cried until she had no strength left in her body. The pain accumulated, but at that moment, while preparing breakfast, she decided she no longer wanted to live like that. It was time to change. The sound of hurried footsteps in the hallway brought Pamela back to reality. Peter appeared, his hair tousled and a sleepy smile on his face. He was only 6 years old, but his presence lit up the house. Pamela knelt and hugged him affectionately. "Good morning, my love. Did you sleep well?" she asked, while preparing a plate for him. "Yes, Mommy. I dreamed I was flying like a superhero," Peter exclaimed, his eyes shining with enthusiasm. "That's amazing. You will always be my superhero," Pamela replied, winking at him, trying to hide the lingering sadness. After serving breakfast, they sat at the table. The sunlight illuminated the room, and for a brief moment, Pamela allowed herself to feel a little peace. Life with Peter was challenging, but also full of love and affection. He was the reason she fought every day. "Do you think we'll ever have a big house with a yard to play in?" Peter asked while chewing his bread. "Of course. And we'll plant flowers and have a swing," Pamela responded, her heart warming at the thought. "But for that, we need to work hard and be happy with what we have now." "I want to help you, Mommy," Peter said determinedly. "Can I be your assistant?" Pamela smiled, admiring her son's determination. "Of course. You can be my special assistant. We'll conquer the world together." But even as she spoke, a shadow settled in her heart. The memory of Paul haunted her. He always had the power to turn her moments of joy into sadness. Since the first betrayal they discovered, everything changed. The lies he told, the way he looked at her with disdain, all of it made her feel small and insignificant. When Paul entered her life, she was a young woman full of dreams and hopes. He was charming and charismatic, and she felt lucky to have him by her side. However, as the years passed, reality revealed itself. The betrayals began to accumulate, and each revelation was like a blow. With each new infidelity, Pamela felt more and more lost. The man who promised to love her for life now seemed like a stranger. "You're not the girl I married," he said once, as if that justified his actions. "You've let yourself go." That day, she felt herself crumble. The disdain in Paul's words hurt her deeply. Insecurity took hold of her, and doubts grew like weeds in her mind. She looked in the mirror and saw a woman she didn't recognize. The sleepless nights and worries aged her faster than she cared to admit. Finally, one fateful night, while the wind howled outside, Pamela decided she could no longer continue in that situation. It was a conversation she had avoided for a long time, but could no longer postpone. With her heart in her hand, she sat down in front of Paul and spoke. "We need to talk," she said, her voice trembling. "I can't take this marriage anymore." Paul looked at her, and for a moment, his eyes showed a flicker of surprise. "What do you mean by that?" he replied, trying to hide his unease. "I know about your affairs, Paul, and I can't live like this. You don't love me anymore. I can't continue being belittled by someone who should be supporting me." He raised an eyebrow, disdain etched on his face. "You're exaggerating. I'm a busy man. You should be more understanding." His words cut like glass. Pamela felt the anger rise within her, but also a deep sadness. She realized that everything she had built with him was crumbling. He never truly loved her. He was more interested in maintaining an image than being a partner. "No, Paul, I'm not exaggerating. I deserve more than this. I deserve to be loved and respected," she responded, her voice firm but her eyes already filling with tears. He merely laughed cynically, as if unaware of what she was going through. "You wouldn't be more than an ordinary woman without me. You know that." Those words were the final blow. Pamela felt small, but at the same time, a flame of determination began to burn within her. If Paul didn't see her worth, she needed to find a way to rebuild herself alone. That night, as tears streamed down her face, Pamela made the decision that would change her life forever. She rose from the table, looked at Paul, and said, "I can't live like this anymore. I need a radical change." Paul's look showed no concern. He merely turned away and closed his eyes, ignoring her despair. Pamela left the room and sat in the living room, tears still streaming down her face. The weight of the decision made her feel both light and heavy at the same time. It was a step that required courage, but she knew she had to do it for herself and for Peter. That sunny morning, while preparing breakfast, was also a symbol of a new beginning. Pamela looked at Peter, who was now finishing his breakfast, and felt a wave of love and determination. Whatever came next, she would face it with courage. She would no longer be a shadow of the woman Paul had created. "We'll conquer the world, my love," she whispered to Peter, hugging him. "And together, we'll find the happiness we deserve." With those words, Pamela made the first of many choices to come. The sun shone brightly outside, and for the first time in a long time, she felt ready to fight for herself and the future she had always desired. Pamela looked out the window, watching the first rays of sunlight filtering through the trees in the small park in front of her apartment. The day promised to be beautiful, but inside her, there was still a storm of emotions. The separation from Paul had been painful, and although she was determined to move on, the emotional scars still burned in her soul. With a deep sigh, she turned to little Peter, who was sitting at the table, focused on his drawing. The vibrant colors of the crayons contrasted with the heavy air surrounding the mother. Pamela approached, leaning in to see what her son was creating. "What are you drawing, love?" she asked, forcing a smile. "It's a castle," Peter replied, holding up the sheet of paper towards her. "And there's a dragon protecting the princess." "Wow, that's amazing," Pamela exclaimed, admiring her son's imagination. She sat at the table, her heart heavy. "You know, I also want to build a castle. A castle where we can be happy." Peter frowned, looking confused. "But castles are huge, Mommy. You'll need a lot of bricks. And I will find those bricks, I promise." Her voice was firm, but inside, the uncertainty still haunted her. "But first, we need breakfast. How about pancakes?" Peter nodded excitedly, and soon the kitchen was filled with the sweet smell of pancakes. As she cooked, Pamela thought about her life, the challenges she faced as a single mother, and the dreams she had set aside. She had always loved fashion. Her grandmother and mother had sewn clothes for her when she was a child, and each piece had a story. Now, after so much suffering, it was time for her to tell her own stories through clothes. After breakfast, Pamela decided she needed support. The next day would be a new beginning, and she needed help. After some research, She found a therapy group for women who had experienced abusive relationships. The idea of sharing her experiences and hearing those of other women excited her. On the day of the meeting, Pamela's heart raced. She was nervous, but also felt a growing sense of anticipation. As she entered the room, she was greeted by a group of women who, like her, seemed to be seeking a fresh start. Laura, the group facilitator, was a woman with short hair and a commanding presence. Her eyes shone with determination and empathy. "Hello, everyone." Laura smiled warmly. "Today, we will open up and share our stories. Remember, this is a safe space. There is no judgment here, only support." Pamela sat in a corner, observing as other women shared their experiences. Some spoke of betrayals, others of the struggle to rebuild themselves after toxic relationships. When it was her turn, she hesitated. But the confidence emanating from Laura encouraged her. My name is Pamela," she began, her voice trembling. "I was in an abusive marriage for years. My ex-husband cheated on me several times, and I felt so small, so insecure. After the separation, I realized I needed to find my own voice." Laura leaned forward, encouraging her to continue. "That is very brave, Pamela. What do you want for your future?" "I want to open a clothing store. I've always loved fashion, and I think I can use that to help other women feel confident." The response came out stronger than she expected. The group applauded, and Pamela felt a wave of encouragement. Laura then shared her own story of overcoming adversity and how she had reinvented herself after a difficult relationship. Laura's words resonated with Pamela like a call to action. As the session progressed, Pamela began to believe that she could truly create something new from her pain. "Pamela, you have an incredible vision. Don't be afraid to follow your dreams," said Laura, with a sincere look. "You are stronger than you think." At the end of the meeting, Pamela felt a weight lifted from her shoulders. Laura's words accompanied her as she walked home. The sun was setting, and the orange hues of the sky seemed to reflect the new hope beginning to blossom within her. In the following days, Pamela dedicated herself to creating clothing sketches. With a notebook and pencil, she began drawing dresses that reflected not only her style, but also the stories she wanted to tell. Each stroke was a step closer to her independence. The memories of her mother and grandmother sewing by her side inspired her to keep moving forward. "Mom, look," she exclaimed one night, showing one of the sketches to Peter. "What do you think of this dress?" Peter looked at the paper and smiled. "It looks like a superhero." "You're going to be a superhero, Mommy?" "Yes, I will be." Pamela's eyes shone. She felt more alive each day, filled with purpose. With the support of Laura and the group, Pamela decided it was time to take the next step. She enrolled in a local fashion course that taught sewing and design techniques. The classes were challenging, but they helped her hone her skills and meet people who shared her passion. Each day was a new opportunity for learning and growth. During one of the classes, she met other women who were also seeking new beginnings. One of them, named Anna, had a vibrant spirit and incredible talent. The two quickly became friends, united by the desire to create something true and impactful. They began planning a small fashion show together, where they could showcase their creations. "Pamela, have you thought about what you're going to call your brand?" Anna asked while they worked on their sketches. "I thought of something that reflects not only fashion, but also the strength we women have. How about Renaissance?" Pamela suggested, her eyes shining with the idea. "Perfect. It's strong and conveys a message of overcoming." Anna smiled enthusiastically. "Let's make this fashion show happen together." With the support of Anna and the group, Pamela began to feel more confident. They worked hard, and the fashion show became a reality. The event would be an opportunity to showcase their creations and, more importantly, to share their stories of overcoming adversity with other women. On the night of the fashion show, the venue was decorated with soft lights and a welcoming atmosphere. Pamela was nervous, but the energy in the room enveloped her. As she looked around, she saw familiar faces. Laura, Anna, and other women from the group were there, supporting her. "You look amazing, Pamela," Laura said, hugging her before she went on stage. "Remember, you're not alone. We're all here with you." And so, with her heart racing, Pamela stepped onto the stage. The music began to play, and she presented her creations. each one laden with emotion and meaning. The audience applauded, and with each step, she felt closer to her dream. After the show, as the women gathered to celebrate, Pamela looked up at the starry sky and smiled. The path ahead would still be long, but she was finally starting to build her castle, brick by brick, and now, more than ever, she felt ready to face any challenge life might bring. The sun began to rise on the horizon, casting a soft light over the small clothing store Pamela and Laura had founded. The space, modest but full of personality, reflected the essence of both. A cozy corner where each piece of clothing told a story, where culture and diversity were celebrated. The walls were adorned with colorful fabrics, pictures that brought everyday inspirations, and a small sewing area that displayed ongoing creations. Pamela was behind the counter, organizing the displayed clothes with a smile on her face, a smile that seemed to have become rare in her previous life. Laura, her partner and friend, was in the back, finishing a final dress that needed to be ready for the day. The smell of fresh coffee permeated the air, a small luxury they had allowed themselves that morning. "Do you think we're ready for today?" Laura shouted from the sewing area, her tone a mix of nervousness and excitement. "Ready or not, the day has arrived," Pamela replied, laughing. "And I can't wait to see people's reactions to our pieces." The first day of sales had an almost magical feeling. The anticipation in the air was palpable. Pamela thought of all the months of hard work, the sleepless nights, the conversations about what having a store would really mean to them. She remembered every word of encouragement Laura had given her when insecurity threatened to take over. "Let's make this happen, Pam. Let's show the world what we're capable of," Laura had said during one of their meetings. And that was exactly what Pamela was determined to do. At 10 o'clock in the morning, the store officially opened. The doorbell jingled, and the first customers walked in, a group of friends who seemed to have stepped straight out of a movie. Their curious glances roamed every corner, and Pamela felt a wave of emotion when one of them approached the central rack. "Hi, these pieces are beautiful," one of the women exclaimed, holding a floral-patterned organic cotton dress. "Where did you get these prints?" "I designed each one of them," Pamela replied, her heart racing with pride. "I try to reflect the beauty of the different cultures that inspire me." The friends began trying on clothes, and the store soon filled with laughter and lively conversations. Pamela and Laura exchanged glances, a gleam of happiness in their eyes. The light atmosphere was contagious, and the energy of the place seemed to vibrate with the joy of the customers. "That dress looks amazing on you," Pamela complimented one of the customers, who was admiring herself in the mirror with a satisfied glow. "It really highlights your features." The woman smiled, clearly flattered. "Thank you. I'm not sure if I'll buy it, but I'm loving feeling so beautiful. You should buy it. Beauty lies in feeling good in your own skin," Laura said, joining in the compliment and making the customer laugh. Throughout the morning, the store saw a steady stream of customers. Some were friends who had been invited, others were passers-by drawn in by the colorful window display. Pamela and Laura were in their element, each sale becoming a small triumph, each smile a reminder that they were on the right path. "Pamela, you won't believe this," Laura shouted, emerging from the sewing area with a light blue dress. "This is the piece I was finishing. You need to see how it shines under the light." Pamela turned to admire the dress. "It's perfect. The color is beautiful and the cut is so elegant. You really have an incredible talent." "Thank you. I hope the customers feel the same way," Laura replied, a hopeful glint in her eyes. At that moment, as the day progressed, Pamela realized that the store was more than just a business. It was a place of warmth, a place where women could feel valued and beautiful, regardless of their stories or origins. She remembered her mother's words, who always said that fashion was a form of expression, a way to present oneself to the world. When the clock struck noon, a small crowd gathered in front of the store. Pamela felt her heart race. "Laura, look at this. I believe we're doing something right. It's incredible, isn't it?" Laura smiled, her eyes sparkling with emotion. "Let's seize this moment and draw more people in." And so, they decided to hold a small promotion, offering discounts on the first purchases. The strategy worked, and the store quickly filled even more. Pamela and Laura were constantly in motion, helping customers choose pieces, talking, laughing, and sharing stories. "Are you the owner of the store?" asked a young woman who was trying on a linen dress. "Yes, I am," Pamela replied, feeling proud. "My friend and I founded this place with a lot of love. It's amazing. I love this sustainable clothing concept. It's so necessary nowadays." The young woman smiled as she twirled to see the dress from all angles. "I'm glad you like it. Sustainability is an important part of what we do," Pamela said, watching the young woman admire herself in the mirror. As the afternoon wore on, Pamela realized that the store had become more than just a commercial establishment. It was a space of empowerment where women connected, shared experiences, and supported one another. Each sale was a step toward fulfilling a dream that once seemed distant. The flow of customers continued, and as the sun set, Pamela and Laura began organizing the sold pieces. The day had been a success beyond their expectations, and the sense of accomplishment was almost palpable. "Today was incredible, Pam," Laura exclaimed, as she helped arrange the racks. "I can't believe how much we sold. It was a dream come true," Pamela said, laughing. "And I don't even know how to thank you for being by my side on this journey." "You don't need to thank me. I'm here because I believe in you and what we're building together," Laura replied sincerely. "And I know this is just the beginning." As the two prepared to close the store, a shadow at the door caught Pamela's attention. Looking up, her heart raced. It was Paul, her ex-husband, with a look of mixed regret and expectation. He stood there, hesitant, as if unsure whether he should enter or not. "Pamela," he began, his voice trembling. "Can we talk?" The tension in the air was palpable. Pamela felt a chill in her stomach, the memories of everything she had been through with him flooding back. Laura noticed the situation and, with an understanding look, stepped back, preparing to leave them alone. "I'll be in the back if you need me," Laura said before retreating. Pamela took a deep breath, trying to stay firm. "What are you doing here, Paul?" she asked, her voice controlled but with a tone of distrust. I just wanted to apologize," he said, his eyes locking onto hers. "I'm sorry for everything I did. I was an idiot, and I realize that now." Pamela crossed her arms, her defenses automatically rising. "What do you think that changes? You hurt me, Paul, and it wasn't just once. I know, and I deeply regret it. I didn't know what I was doing, but now I see how much I've lost. You're incredible, Pamela, and I want to come back." The sincerity in his voice was palpable, but Pamela was not fooled. "You want to come back? After everything that happened? You can't just show up and expect me to forget all the betrayals, all the disdain," she said, her voice firm but tinged with sadness. "I know I don't have the right, but I want to try. I can be a better man. I promise," Paul pleaded, stepping a little closer. "You don't understand, Paul. I'm no longer the woman you left. I've rebuilt myself. I've created something that's mine," Pamela replied, feeling the strength pulsate within her. "I don't need you in my life. I'm doing this on my own, and I'm much happier this way." Paul's eyes filled with tears, but Pamela had already made her decision. There would be no space for the past to haunt her again. "Please leave," she said, her voice now softer but resolute. "I wish you find what you're looking for, but it's not me." Paul hesitated, the pain visible on his face. "Pamela, Please," she interrupted. "You need to go. This is what's best for both of us." He stood there for a moment, the internal struggle evident, but finally stepped back. "I understand. Sorry for everything." Pamela watched as he left the store, feeling a mix of relief and sadness. She knew it was the right choice, but she couldn't ignore the pain of the past. However, now, that pain no longer defined her. She was a new woman, ready to face the future. The atmosphere at the fashion fair was electrifying, with bright lights and the vibrant energy of designers and fashion enthusiasts circulating everywhere. The space was filled with colorful booths, each more impressive than the last, but Pamela's heart beat strongest for one. Her own store, now standing out with a collection that reflected not only her talent, but also her story of overcoming obstacles. The pieces were arranged to tell a visual narrative, honoring her roots and the strength she had always carried within her. She was backstage, dressed in an elegant linen dress she had designed especially for the occasion. The simplicity of the piece contrasted with the complexity of the emotions she felt at that moment. Pamela looked in the mirror and saw a different woman. Not the insecure and submissive woman Paul had known, but a strong, determined, and, above all, free businesswoman. A smile spread across her face as she remembered the hard path she had traveled to get there. Laura, her partner and friend, entered the room, bringing new energy. "Pamela, you look stunning. Look at you. This is just the beginning," she exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "The presentation is almost ready. People are excited to see your creations." "Thank you, Laura. I'm as nervous as I am excited," Pamela replied, trying to control the anxiety that pulsed in her chest. "What if they don't like it? What if I don't please them?" "Pamela, have you forgotten that this collection is a reflection of who you are? What matters is your truth. You're not just selling clothes, you're telling your story. No one can criticize that." Laura placed a reassuring hand on Pamela's shoulder. Nodding, Pamela took a deep breath. The moment was hers, and she was determined to shine. When her turn finally came, she walked down the corridor leading to the stage, feeling the attention of all the eyes on her. The room was filled with anticipation, and as she stepped onto the stage, her presence seemed to illuminate the space. She began to present her creations, each piece a testament to her journey, each fabric a layer of her exposed soul. The audience was attentive, and Pamela felt she was managing to touch their hearts. However, at the back of her mind, a shadow of worry began to form. Paul. He wasn't there, but the memory of his betrayals and manipulations still haunted her. What could he be plotting? As she spoke about the importance of sustainability and authenticity in her collection, a murmur began to spread through the audience. Pamela frowned, sensing something was amiss. Looking to the back of the room, she saw a man who stood out among the crowd. He was one of the most influential investors in the fashion industry, and he seemed agitated. His expression changed rapidly, and soon she realized that words were floating among the audience like poison. "Pamela, you won't believe what's happening," Laura whispered, approaching her. "That investor, he seems to know something about you and Paul." "What are you talking about?" Pamela asked, a chill running through her. "He just received information that Paul is trying to destabilize your brand. He said Paul has been spreading false rumors about the quality of your clothes. He wants you to know that this is Paul's doing." The world seemed to stop for a moment. Anger and betrayal resurfaced, and Pamela felt a wave of determination rise within her. What Paul was trying to do was simply unacceptable. "I can't let this go. I can't let him control me anymore." Determined, Pamela turned to the audience, her voice now firm and clear. "One moment, please." The crowd fell silent, and all eyes turned to her. "Some of you may have heard rumors about my brand, about the quality of my creations. I want to clarify personally that these rumors have a very specific origin." The atmosphere in the room shifted, and Pamela felt the tension begin to grow. "These rumors are the result of cruel and malicious manipulation by someone who should have been a source of support in my life, but instead became a source of pain and betrayal." She took a deep breath, facing the audience as if it were a sea of attentive faces. "That someone is my ex-husband, Paul. He tried to sabotage my success because he couldn't bear to see my transformation. He doesn't care about the truth, only about the control he once had over me." The murmur in the audience grew, and faces of surprise and empathy began to appear. Pamela felt a mix of relief and adrenaline coursing through her veins. "I'm no longer the woman he tried to diminish. I'm the woman who rose from the ashes and created a brand that represents strength, beauty, and authenticity. He can't stop me." The applause began to echo, and the energy in the room changed. People started to support Pamela, shouting words of encouragement. "You're amazing. Let's go, Pamela. We're with you." Laura was in the front row, tears in her eyes, applauding fervently. The audience's support was a balm for Pamela's soul, and she realized she had finally freed herself from the shadow of her past. "I want everyone here to know that my commitment to the truth and my brand is unwavering. I won't let anyone, not even Paul, take that away from me." When she finished, the audience was on their feet, applauding wildly. Pamela smiled, feeling she had gained not only their approval but also her own freedom. And at that moment, as the emotion enveloped her, she saw Paul approaching the stage, his expression filled with desperation and anger. "Pamela, you can't do this," he shouted, trying to make himself heard over the crowd. "I've already done it, Paul, and there's no going back." Pamela's voice was firm, and she didn't waver in his presence. "You have no power over me. Never again." Paul's expression turned to a mix of fury and despair, and he retreated, realizing his control had slipped away. Pamela turned back to the audience, who were applauding enthusiastically. She felt she had finally freed herself from the chains that had kept her bound to the past. The weight that once suffocated her had now dissipated, and freedom was sweet. With the presentation concluded, Pamela was invited to a cocktail party where investors and fashion influencers were gathering. The environment was filled with successful people, and her heart pulsed with the adrenaline of victory. She felt alive. While talking to some investors, a man approached. He was tall, with dark hair and a confident smile. "You were incredible up there. I'm impressed by your courage and your creations." "Thank you. I really appreciate that," Pamela replied, feeling an instant connection. "I've worked hard to get here." "I'm Raphael," he said, extending his hand. "I'm very interested in your brand and how we can collaborate. Your story is inspiring, and I'd love to hear more about your ideas for the future." Pamela smiled, feeling a spark of hope. Perhaps this was the beginning of something new, not only in her career but also in her personal life. "I'd love to talk more about that, Raphael. Shall we meet later?" "Absolutely," he replied, his eyes shining with enthusiasm. As the night progressed, Pamela felt surrounded by a new energy. She had overcome what held her back. The past was finally behind her, and ahead lay a future full of possibilities. The fashion fair was not just an event to showcase her clothes. It was a milestone in her life. And more importantly, it was a symbol of her resilience and the strength she had always had, even when she couldn't see it. In that space, amid applause and smiles, Pamela not only found the recognition she had always desired but also a new chance to love and be loved, this time in a genuine and true way. As she walked away from the stage, with adrenaline still coursing through her veins, Pamela knew she was ready for whatever came next. And this time, she was surrounded by people who would support her, and she was finally ready to open her heart again. The days following the encounter with Paul were a mixture of emotions for Pamela. There was a sense of freedom, but also a need to reinforce her new beginning. The fashion fair had been a success, and orders began pouring in from all sides. The store thrived, and each day was a new opportunity to create and inspire. Pamela decided it was time to take an even bigger step. With the support of Laura and Peter's enthusiasm, she began planning the expansion of her brand. There was a small space available next to the store that could be transformed into a sewing studio and a showroom for her creations. One afternoon, while discussing the expansion plans, Laura brought a surprise. "Pam, I want to introduce you to someone. This is Raphael, an investor who is very interested in our project." Pamela extended her hand, feeling an immediate connection with Raphael. "Nice to meet you, Raphael. Laura has told me a lot about you." Raphael smiled warmly. "The pleasure is mine, Pamela. I'm impressed with what you've built here. I'd like to discuss how I can help expand your brand." Pamela felt a wave of hope and excitement. They spent the next few weeks in meetings, discussing ideas and strategies to take Renaissance to new heights. Raphael brought not only capital, but also a clear vision of how to position the brand in the market. With the expansion underway, Pamela decided it was time for a new fashion show. This one would be bigger, grander, and with a theme that reflected her journey and that of many other women. The theme would be resilience and Renaissance. The preparations were intense. Pamela, Laura, and Anna worked tirelessly, choosing fabrics, designing models, and rehearsing choreography. Every detail was carefully planned to ensure the show was an absolute success. On the big day, the hall was packed. There was a vibrant energy in the air, a palpable anticipation. Pamela, dressed in one of her own designs, stepped onto the stage to kick off the show. "Good evening, everyone," she began, her voice strong and clear. "This fashion show is more than a presentation of fashion. It's a celebration of strength, resilience, and rebirth. Each piece you will see today carries a story, a journey of overcoming obstacles. I hope you feel inspired and see the beauty that comes from the courage to rise again. The lights dimmed, and the music began. Models walked the runway, showcasing creations that were true works of art. The applause echoed through the hall, and Pamela felt an indescribable joy. When the show ended, Pamela received a standing ovation. She stepped onto the stage again, this time with tears of happiness in her eyes. "Thank you all for being here," she said, emotional. "This is just the beginning. Together, we will continue to create, inspire, and transform." After the show, as the guests gathered to celebrate, Raphael approached Pamela with a smile. "You were incredible, Pamela," he said, his eyes shining. "I'm very happy to be part of this." Pamela smiled, feeling a special connection with Raphael. "Thank you, Raphael. We couldn't have done this without you." They talked for hours, sharing dreams and visions for the future of Renaissance. Pamela felt she had found not only a business partner but also a friend and perhaps something more. In the following months, the expansion of Renaissance was a success. The store and the studio thrived, and Pamela's creations gained recognition across the country. She received invitations to participate in international fashion events, and Renaissance became a brand synonymous with beauty, sustainability, and empowerment. Pamela looked at her life now and felt proud of her journey. She had faced challenges, overcome obstacles, and found her own voice. And most importantly, she had created a bright future for herself and Peter. One night, while she was at home with Peter, he approached her with a mischievous smile. "Mommy, you really are a superhero," he said, hugging her tightly. Pamela smiled, feeling her heart warm. "And you're my superhero, Peter. We're going to conquer the world together." Peter looked at her with his big, curious eyes. "Mommy, how do we conquer the world?" Pamela laughed softly, stroking her son's hair. "Well, my love, one way to conquer the world is by treating people with respect and admiration. And that starts at home, with our family." Peter frowned, thinking deeply. "What do you mean, Mommy?" Pamela settled on the couch, pulling Peter closer. "It means that when you grow up and have your own family, you should always respect your partner. Respect is fundamental for the relationship to be healthy and happy. You need to make your partner feel valued and admired for who they are and what they do." Peter nodded, but he still seemed curious. "And how do I do that?" "You show respect and admiration through your actions and words. Treat your partner with kindness and consideration, listen to what they have to say, and value their opinions. And most importantly, show that you care about their well-being and that of your family." Pamela paused, wanting to make sure Peter understood. "And when you choose someone to be by your side, choose someone who treats you the same way, with respect and admiration. Because when both partners treat each other that way, love grows and flourishes." Peter smiled, hugging his mother tighter. "I'll remember that, Mommy. I'll treat my partner with a lot of respect and admiration. I promise." Pamela kissed her son's forehead, feeling proud. "I know you will, my love. And if you do that, your family will be very happy." And so, Pamela continued her journey, confident that the future was full of possibilities. She had found her strength, her passion, and her purpose, and she was ready to face any challenge life might bring.